premier Ford dealership is located here in Cabarrus County, where more than 70 years in the business lends to an incredible experience for every customer, every time. Whether you're looking for the toughness of an F-150, the spirit of a Bronco, or the versatility of an Explorer, you'll find it all at Hillbush Ford, your truck destination. Come experience the Hillbush difference in Kannapolis, just a 10-minute drive from Charlotte Motor Speedway, or get started online at hillbushford.com.
Chuck, Dr. Dave, here we are into December, just a little bit more than a week away from Christmas. Made it through the holidays, made it through the Kannapolis Christmas parade, and everything's going well here in the town. So I thought we'd get together and do another Mill People series. What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. These are always good we always learn something that we didn't know or we didn't know we needed to know.
Yeah, I think our K-Town connection is obviously our bread and butter here, but I'm starting to really like the Mill People because it really weaves together. You like that Mill reference?
I see that.
Let me fix it. No pun there.
It weaves together the Mill history and the town history, and I think it really gives us a good place to where we are today.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, and these are stories that needed to be preserved 25 years ago, but we didn't have this set up 25 years ago.
Totally agree.
I would have been, 15? Yeah. So,
yeah, totally agree. But Chuck, you brought us a guy here today, literally, who you wanted to get on the show and talk about his storied history of working with the mill. So I'm going to let you do the introductions of our great guest.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'm honored to bring my friend, Mr. Guy, also known as Bud Williams. He's a lifetime resident of Kannapolis, still lives in the Mill Village, a regular walker downtown. He's at a bright young age of 89 years young, and he doesn't look a day over 69. And so without further ado, welcome to the show. And we are very, very honored to have you share your story of Canon Mills with us today.
Glad to be here with you.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for being here with us. Merry Christmas to you and your family with the holidays coming up here soon. But I guess we'll start right from the beginning. Like, when were you born and what part of town do you remember growing up in?
Well, I was born in July of 1936, and I grew up in the Mill Village down on the last block going south on Southeast Avenue, just before you get to the jumping off place there at the post office.
Yeah. Huh.
And I lived there until I graduated from A.L. Brown High School in 1954. And after I graduated, of course, not knowing what the rest of my life might bring, I made an application to Canon Mills for a job, as many young men and women did at that time. And shortly thereafter that, I received a notice to come to work, and come to work on the third shift. And that's where I got my start, on the third shift in one of the weave rooms.
Wow.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't care to stay there long, so I asked for a transfer, and I got it up to the packing department.
Right.
And I stayed there about, I guess I was there about 5 months. And I had a good friend from grammar school and high school that also worked in there. And being that the draft was in effect at that time, he and I, either one, had a yearning to go to college. So, well, you know, someday we might want to do something like that. But right away, no, because we both figured that somewhere in the near future, Uncle Sam was going to send us a letter of greetings to report for active military service.
That would have been Korea.
No, that would, well, yeah, I
Korea.
guess it would have been Korea.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't get that, but
Oh,
he and I both decided that since we probably would get that type of letter in the near future, that we would go ahead and go on in the military and get it behind us. So he and I both went down to the draft board and told them that we were ready to go. So they moved our names up to the front of the list. And shortly thereafter, we got that letter, said to report for active duty. So that's what we did.
Wow.
So I served in the military for 2 years in the middle 1950s. After getting discharged in January of '57, I still didn't, know what I wanted to do. So I decided to try to get back in the mill, and I fortunately got an interview with the gentleman that was in charge of what we then called the tabulating department. That was where all the new orders and this kind of thing came.
who was that gentleman?
Mr. Jim Wiseman.
Jim Wiseman.
And
Okay.
he lived in the house that you and your wife live in right now.
How about that?
Remarkable.
Did you know that? Or
No, I didn't know that.
Speaking of learning something, there you go.
That one's. I don't know why I asked that question.
Wow.
Mr. Wiseman, he was a good man.
Oh, that's great.
So I got a call to come up for an interview with him, and shortly thereafter, I did go to work in, like I say, what they call the tabulating department. Don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it was sort of the forerunner of the computer age. We had a lot of Remington Rand machinery, but it was operated on punch cards, so to speak. All the new orders came in, and we had women that sat there 8 hours a day and worked key punches and punched all that information into the punch cards. And
Wow.
we created the paperwork, the paper orders, and all this kind of stuff. So I decided somewhere shortly after that maybe I would like to get some more education. So I talked with Mr. Wiseman, our director, and asked him about the possibilities of working and a part-time in the evenings and attending Catawba College. And he worked that out for me, and that's what I proceeded to do for the next 4 years. I worked in there for about 5 hours each evening. I attended Catawba in the mornings. And when I graduated from Catawba, excuse me, I liked Kannapolis so much, I didn't care about trying to go somewhere else and receive employment. So I transferred from that department just through the door and on the other side of the wall to what was known at that time as the billing and shipping department. And that's where I got my training for what I would later do. When I went to the billing and shipping department, I was placed with the gentleman that handled the towel orders for the J.C. Company.
Huh. What was his name?
Mr. Mumford Ritchie.
Mumford Ritchie.
Monk Ritchie.
He was a Concord resident, and he taught me well, and enjoyed being there. And that was, that was in, I started in 1961, and in about about 1965, we moved into a new building that was just completed. And we moved into up on the 5th floor of that building, and we became known as the Order and Data Processing Department.
I know that's over the bleachery and the sewing
Yes.
room, all that.
Yes.
I've been up in there when I worked in the bleachery back in the day. So yeah, that was
okay.
like all the data
Okay.
processing and all that stuff up there.
Yeah.
How about that? What Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, well, there's several things you've mentioned I wanted to ask about, but just the most recent thing was the J.C. Penney order. I have reasons for asking this, but how big was the J.C. Penney account for Canon? Was it
Very big. It was.
I can only imagine, because
Yeah,
that's when J.C. Penney was in. I mean, they were
In their
big
heyday.
deal.
We had a lot of work. Well, now I was working with a gentleman, like I said, that handled the towel orders.
Mm-hmm.
Another gentleman there in the same office handled the sheet orders, that
Wow.
kind of thing. So,
Wow.
but
They were a big customer.
Oh yeah.
And I want to back up just for a second. So if you graduated from A.L. Brown in 1954, that was the
second graduating class.
Second graduating class of Brown. Mm-hmm. So you went to Canon for you went to like junior high school with Canon, and then high school there too for 1 year.
Yeah, I went for 1 year at Canon and then moved over to A.L. Brown.
How was it going to A.L. Brown as a brand new school? What did y'all think about that place?
Oh, we thought it was wonderful.
I can only imagine, because that place.
It's
was
beautiful
built,
today, and
Yeah.
I could only imagine.
when it was brand new.
Yeah, brand new.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a shock.
Oh yeah, but it was great going there.
And I didn't realize you went to Catawba. I graduated from Catawba.
Oh, okay.
And so what did you major in at Catawba? What was it?
Business ed.
Okay. Gotcha. So you graduated from Catawba in 1950?
61.
61.
How about that? Man, that's a great
How about
episode.
that?
So I want to go back. You started out, you said in the weave room was your first job.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Like, what was the days like? Was it hard work, like hot, sweaty? Like, what was the labor like?
Well, it wasn't what the days was like; it's what the nights were like. I was on the third shift, but my first job was sweeping. I swept the cotton up off the floor, separated the good cotton from the bad, et cetera, and that's what I did for, I guess, about a month, like I say, and then I asked for a transfer to another department.
Wow. I don't blame you.
I feel like, and I never worked in the weave room again. I was running the forklift and the bleachery, but I feel like the weave room is kind of where the rubber meets the road in the cotton mill. I mean, that's where the good stuff happens.
Yeah, and one thing that was it was funny to me, really, but back then, of course, all the stuff about ear plugs and all this stuff, we didn't have that. So after a night's work in there with those looms, the shuttle going back and forth and clacking for about maybe the first 2 weeks or so. When I would go home in the mornings and go to bed and I could hear those looms clacking in my sleep. But it finally got better. But by then I was moving on to another department.
Which weave room you may have said it earlier. Which weave room were you in?
Number 6.
Number 6. That was a big one.
I think it was about one of the big ones, or maybe
Yeah.
I think it was
largest.
too.
Probably the biggest one there.
Well, what were some of the early supervisors you remember?
Right offhand, I cannot remember. You talking about in the weave room?
Yeah,
now?
or just in the mill in general. We love to bring up the names of some of the past key supervisors, boss men, that obviously may be passed on now, but, we love kind of carrying on that heritage.
Yeah, well, probably the supervisors I had when I first started are all deceased, but now I don't know that, of course. But now here again, I told you Mr. Jim Wiseman was in charge of the tabulated department when I went there. And when I moved across the wall to the building and shipping department, a gentleman by the name of Mr. C.D. Hemphill was the vice president and in charge of that department and the one I just left, but he was the head man in both of them.
About that. Wow. Do you have any remembrances of Mr. Cannon coming through departments or visiting departments or talking to employees, or maybe even yourself have any experience with Mr. Cannon directly?
No, I sure don't. I did not have any direct experience with him, but I had a lot of experiences with people that worked, close to him and this kind of thing. They would come through our office to bring customers through and this type of thing.
Right. And I guess and we've talked about this with a lot of people that's been on this show, even our normal K-Town Connection shows, let alone the mill people. But the amount of loyalty that existed in the mill to Mr. Cannon and the whole company is just incredible, especially in today's world of there's no loyalty to any company or anybody anymore. It's just, you move on to the next best thing. But people at the mill, especially in that era, you were there, and because you believed in the company and they were your lifeline.
And just to add that before you answer, you mentioned that you graduated from Catawba. You could have went to Charlotte or any other city and got an incredible job.
Right.
But you mentioned that you love this town and you wanted to come back here. So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I just didn't have the urge to leave, So at the time I lived, my wife of early years in, we lived in a Canon Mill house, and just wasn't crazy about up and moving to another place. Maybe there could have been other opportunities at other textile mills, Springs or Deere and Milligan or some of those, but we liked it in Kannapolis and wanted to stay here. So
And you lived across the street from my grandparents.
in my growing up years.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure enough, did over
So
there.
was that the same house? So when you and your wife, where did y'all live in the mill village?
We lived just outside of the mill gate, about 150 yards on South Juniper Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was before you went to Southeast.
No, I grew up on
Grew
Southeast.
up on Southeast
Yeah,
and
I
then
grew up
went to Juniper.
Then I went to Juniper.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First couple of years, first year or so after the wife and I were married, we lived with her dad over on Church Avenue.
Oh, okay.
And then we got a mill house, like I say, there on Juniper Street. And we lived there until 1964, when our first son was born. And we moved to the 4th Street area, where I'm still at, just around the corner there from the A.L. Brown High School football stadium.
Right.
So-
in
so
64.
Which house number on 4th Street?
300.
300. Had an uncle that lived, I think it might have been 404, Johnny Martin. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
know.
knew Johnny.
Everybody knew
Everybody knew Johnny.
Yeah, I used to see. I believe he's one that used to hang around up at Rodney Service
Rodney
Station.
Sexton.
Yeah, and Holbrook.
He was a great ball player.
I
back
started
in the
to
day.
say I used to go down to Acock School, my grammar school, when I was a youngster. They had a softball field down there, and I'd go down there. Me and some of the neighborhood kids would go down there in the springtime and summer and watch the mill teams play softball.
Oh,
And Johnny was a good pitcher.
I've been told that he was one of the best ball players in this area.
He probably was.
He also put up antennas for Holbrooks.
He did.
He hung around Holbrooks all the time.
Johnny was a very good man.
I want to ask you about a process. So you mentioned you moved from Church Street out of your wife's parents' house to another house. What was that process like, obtaining a mill house as an employee? Did you fill out some paperwork, or did you tell your supervisor you'd like to move into a house on your own? And then after that, when you had your son, what was that process like? Well, look, I need a bigger house. How can I get in line? Because there's only a certain amount of mill houses. So.
Well, the usual process, and what I excuse me, what I did, I talked to my supervisor and said, ask them. I think that's about what everybody does. Can you put in a request for a company house for my family? And usually they would work on it, and so then we'd go from there. They would let us know when.
How long would it usually take? Is there any timeline? Was it a couple of weeks or months? Or?
It was usually.
For a couple of days.
It was usually probably in a couple of months, this kind of thing.
Gotcha. That's one thing I've never asked anybody.
that's true. I've
about
never knew what
how
the
you
process
obtained
and the
it,
wait
because-
time.
Right.
It's just always assumed you lived in a
Right.
mill house. Well, how did you get there?
Now, the house that your first house was Church Avenue or Juniper?
Now, my first house, well, my young wife and I lived with her dad in a company house on Church Street, Church Avenue.
Church
Street,
okay.
yeah.
But your first mill house with you and her were,
Just the wife and I in a 3-room mill house, and that was fine.
and had tenants previously been in that house, or was it a new house?
No, tenants had previously been there.
They had, because that was again another one of those 1930. All of them were built somewhere around circa 1930.
And now, when our first son was born in 1964, then I talked to my supervisor then to would he put in for us a larger house.
Mm-hmm.
And within a reasonably good time, maybe a few months, something like that, we moved to the house I'm in now, which is a 5-room house, and it was plenty. It was plenty big enough. We had 2 sons, and it was big enough for all of us,
So when Murdoch bought the mill and he started selling mill houses, I guess you were approached by his company if you wanted to buy that house. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
And how was that process? Was that a simple process, or was that very tough? Or
no, it was fairly simple because I got a since I had been in service, and I got a loan, easy, and we bought the house and
still there,
paid for it in a reasonable number of years, and still there.
What was the rent? Like, did you pay the mill rent, or did they pull it out of your check? Like, how did that work? They
took it out of a check. Every employee, as far as I know, they deducted the mill rent from the check. Now, when she and I first moved in that house on East 4th Street, it had a car shed, and the house rent, I believe, was like $42.50 a month. $250 was for the car shed.
$250.
That's a lot of money.
We got to let you. It's going to be extra for that 2-car garage.
Garage back there. Plus, you had the garbage truck alley.
Oh yeah. Now, and one thing about it, my driveway was part of the back alley where the garbage truck made its run.
How about that?
Of course, now when we moved there, we were told when you come up your driveway, you had to go up the driveway and make a sharp right turn to go into the car shed. And we were told, don't leave your vehicle in the driveway where the garbage truck could not get through. And 99% of the time I could do that, but every now and then I'd hear a horn blare, and I thought, who in the world is that? And I'd go to the back door and look out, and the garbage man would say, move that car out of the way.
He's getting rough talk.
Now that back alley went up behind the house. It served all those houses on Northeast Avenue and North Rose.
Yep.
Correct, all the way over to 3rd Street.
Yeah.
And so did anybody else use the back alley other than the trash truck, basically?
Well, some people would use the back alley as a drive to get into their backyard, so to speak.
Oh,
that type
okay.
of thing.
Yeah, if they need to get into the rear of their houses.
Now, when I was growing up down on Southeast Avenue, I used to ride my bicycle up the back alley all the way to the house that I live in now.
It just went straight up, crossed over, and crossed over.
Just playing around, yeah.
And I can remember growing up that you had the paint department, you had the pipe shop, the plumbing shop, whatever. In other words, anything you needed, all you did was the carpentry shop, and they just went on. All them shops just went on and on, and they'd come out and do whatever you needed at the house.
Talking about 4th Street, Roland Daves, he used to be over the paint department.
Yes.
And he lived there on 4th Street. And I need to bring that coat in here, but I have his painter coat. It has the mill symbol on the back and then his initials on the front of his jacket. But, between him and the street department, my granddaddy, Paul Chapman, he was over the street department. And you had all these groups of people that were just doing nothing but maintaining properties, whether it was actual mill or housing. And that went on forever until there was no more. And even you fast forward until post Murdoch, post Pillowtex, up until Murdoch's company recently sold all the houses they had left. There was still a crew of guys that Murdoch had in place maintaining mill houses.
Wow.
Up until 2 years.
The ones that hadn't sold off.
That's
exactly.
I mean, it had 200 or something like that.
What year did you buy your house on 4th Street?
Let's see, Chuck. Gosh, I can't remember the exact.
I want to say the mill started selling them off around 85 or 86 because my uncle and my grandmother lived in one, and that's when they decided not to stay in one and moved elsewhere in town.
I'm thinking that we purchased that house maybe about it was somewhere in the middle 80s because I'm thinking when we purchased that house, it had a floor furnace in it. And about a year or two after we purchased the house, we put central air and heat in. And I think our first unit was put in I believe, 1984.
Oh, now that's what all the mill houses had that floor furnace in the center sitting room type area.
A lot of them did, and a lot of them had the radiators.
That's
hot water radiators on them too.
And those floor furnaces, they run you out.
boy.
They get so hot.
If you
quick.
could stand in that room, you'd go. It'd be 20 degrees cooler next
like
room
120
over.
degrees on that thing.
One thing they were good for. When we went to a Friday night football game on a cold night,
Oh yeah, stand on it.
to come in the back door and stand on it, go to the hallway and stand on that thing.
That's right. My papa had one forever, and that was the best thing on a cold day. You just go stand on it.
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned Roland Daves. Yeah, I knew Roland, and Roland had a couple of brothers, and one of them was F.J. Daves, and he was, I think, he was a supervisor somewhere in the air conditioning, and his wife worked in the building and shipping department with me for years before she retired. Yeah.
And then their daughter
It was Gary.
Yeah.
I went to. I graduated with her,
And she
and
became
she went on
president of the
president of Novant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very good people.
Yes.
That family.
Yeah,
I
great
wish
family.
Roland was still around. Roland could tell some tales. It was
Now-
some crazy stuff. It
And
was-
let's see, there was one other brother. Can't think of his first name, but he was a supervisor down at the Cabarrus mill.
okay.
Oh,
And then,
that's plant 4.
Yeah, plant
Yeah,
four.
plant four.
And then another one, I believe, was June Daves or Junior Daves, and he was a supervisor in maybe the Bleachery or somewhere.
I didn't know there was that many of them.
Yeah, I knew FJ and I knew Roland, of course, and
Yep.
they were great people.
Now, when you got over into data processing, was that your final stop?
Yes.
And did you move up to a supervisor in there before you retired?
I was a small. We had several departments in there. At one time, I was a department head there in the big office.
Oh, okay.
We had, I don't know. At one time, we had approximately maybe 250 people that worked in that big office complex. And our leader, when we moved in there, was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Leon Lackey. He was a Concord resident. And
Leon Lackey.
So what special memory do you have of being in the mill? Is there something that stands out, like a funny time or something crazy that happened that you weren't expecting, or what's something that makes you laugh when you look back at working up there?
Well, I can't remember a particular situation, but there was a lot of situations that would. I mean, everybody was just sort of mostly good to each other, and we enjoyed working together. And
We hear a lot of that,
Yeah.
you know, as family and just everybody got along together working.
yeah.
And
Now there would be some friction every now and then, but
Sure.
we'd get it worked out.
was that basically a desk job all day or 8 to 5?
Yes, and we of course each individual like myself when I started was known as an account manager, so to speak. Like I started out with being the assistant to the man that handled the account of J.C. Penney. And when we moved into the new office building, I had the chance to work with various customers on handling their orders for irregular products or off goods or seconds or whatever you might want to call them. But there was a big market for that too.
Oh yeah.
And our daily contact was with salespeople, in the branch offices, New York office, this type of thing.
Most of that on the phone, or was there some in person?
Well, no, we always had somebody coming from New York or one of the branch offices come down and talk with us, and we'd go out in the evening and have dinner down at Lake Lynn Lodge or somewhere like that. And
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, it sure is.
That's a whole nother road.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of cool, and also I think it shows how ahead of the time, you know, the mill and just how complex the mill was. Because, you know, I remember in the late 90s working in the bleachery, and you know, I was in charge of one thing and one thing only, and that was to unload tractor trailers full of dye down into the basement under the bleachery. But it's amazing, you know, how it took a whole army of people, whether it's guys like you in the data side or in the ordering side that you know, was interacting with the vendors, the final destination for the sheets, and how that would find its way through the interweb of office workers to how much yarn to order, how much cotton to order, how much dye to order, or whatever, and then ultimately down to where the common worker was to get it all done. But it's just amazing how complex an army of systems that was, even way back then.
Yeah.
And that was way before computers. That was the old
I was
fashioned way.
listening to you
Yeah.
talk about like the punch cards,
Yes.
and the tabulating systems. I mean, that to me, that feels like that was way ahead of its time. I don't know, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it seems that way.
now and I will mention this. You know, I was talking about working in the evening and going to Catawba as a day student, and there were, I can't remember the exact number, but there were about 5 or 6 of us part-time workers in the evening there, and we were all attending college. I said I had one friend in there that was going to Pfeiffer, and the other 2 or 3 of us were going to Catawba, and so we.
And we've heard that all along, is how good the meal was to let you further educate and work around you with your shift, as the same way with high school students working various shifts and going to school also. They were
very, very cooperative in letting us do that.
We hear that numerous times there.
What was your experience when the world changed in 1982 and Canon shifted ownership to Mr. Murdoch, and then 4 years later it went to Fieldcrest? What was your experience with all that? What what impact did it have on your career or job, or even the morale or the camaraderie of the mill?
Well, now the day-to-day things that we did just continued on, just the very same way, so to speak. But the working atmosphere, I would say, wasn't quite as good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we adapted to it, and
Right. So let me ask you another question. That same time frame, 1984, the city became a city for the first time in the history of our town. What do you remember from all that? The kind of the rumor mill going around the mill about what that was going to mean for Kannapolis?
well, of course, everybody had questions.
Uh-huh.
You know, we would discuss it all the time. Wonder what's going to happen to this. Wonder what's going to happen to that, and how much is this going to change, and how much is that going to change? But
And you've seen things change. Did it change as much as you thought it would, or in hindsight, has it been a good change? I know you enjoy walking downtown and see what we have became over the last 45 years from being down there on a Sunday afternoon and for an hour never see anybody to where we are now. It's just been so remarkable.
well, I mean, I personally think the change has been good, but I missed the old type town that we had for a good while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I enjoyed going uptown and on my lunch hour and going to places like you remember Haney and Holbrook Clothing Store and,
Yep.
and Good Nights and
Yep.
Query Brothers.
All right up on Main Street there together.
Aggravate them during the lunch hour, and then head back to the office.
And you know that was a time that the mill offices would let out from 12 to 1, and they would go downtown to the Belk store, down to eat downstairs. They would go down to let's see, we had a Firestone downtown.
Goodyear.
Goodyear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we just had the cleaners, barber shops. You're right.
Bitchy Hardware.
That's it. You remember the Donut Diner?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it just went on, and it was just 3 blocks up and down and back and forth to go to, and something always. The transit back on Oak Avenue, Kannapolis Transit, the buses stopped there.
We always enjoyed the lunch hour. And of course, I would usually take my lunch, eat there at my desk, and then
Get out.
3 or 4 of us would head out downtown to
Mess with people.
break the monotony of the day. And
Yeah.
it was very enjoyable.
That's
Man,
really awesome.
This is
I
great.
wish, that's the type of just that casual interaction I wish was recorded somewhere.
I know.
You know, the H. Lee Waters films in 1941, 1938, I mean, those are great because it does capture that 1940 era of interactions, but 1960s interactions and people in and out of those stores at the lunch hour would just be so awesome to see footage of that and just sit there and watch. Like, this is what happened then, because I mean that was just a different atmosphere.
What would, and I want to take a step further back, just listening to Ryan, what would have been your favorite moment, their most memorable moment as a child just growing up in Kannapolis? Like, just something cool that happened around town that even to this day, 89 years later, you may remember.
I guess my most memorable time, the happiest time, was when I was, like you say, maybe 7, 8, 9 years old. And Canon Mills began putting bathrooms in the company houses.
About that.
And a big moment in my life was when the ditch digging equipment got to my block, started digging ditches to put in the sewer lines, because I sure wasn't too crazy about those outhouses.
How about that? Wow.
Proud moment there.
That's great.
You know what,
That-
though?
That's
That's a great story, and I'm glad you shared that, because that just goes to show you how tough it was growing up in that area, and how meaningful that had to be, that's one of your most memorable moments. But
And
two,
that wasn't that long ago.
it wasn't that long ago, but
No.
it also goes to show you, and it's a word that we've used to talk about Kannapolis people for a long time, but just how resilient you were. I mean, you had to get up every day. It didn't matter if it's 20 degrees outside. You had to go out to that outhouse or whatever. And I think that's why our homegrown, born and raised people here, I think this town was so gritty and tough because you grew up hard like that.
That's true.
One thing I remember talking about the outhouses as a child there in the neighborhood playing. I remember one occasion that that there were about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of us kids playing cowboys and Indians, and I crawled up on top of my neighbor's outhouse, and I was lying down on top of it, shooting, at them, and all of a sudden one of them got me, and I was going to roll over like playing dead, and I rolled too far and rolled off the toilet. But but when I hit the ground, I got up shooting.
So during that, so you said that was about when you were 8 years old. So that would have been about 1944, 1945, something like that.
Somewhere along, yeah.
That was still World War II. Was still, it had just finished or it was still going,
it's still
depending on which, what part of 44 or 45 it was. That's a big deal for a company to be taking on that type of a job during the midst of a war.
You're right.
And did those houses at that point, before the sewer was put in, did you have running water in the house, or was that all done at the same time? What was the timing of that?
No, let's see. Well, during that time, we had running water in the house. No, well, not in the house. It was on the back porch, so to speak.
Okay.
The house I lived in had an open back porch, and had a water spigot that came up on that back porch, and that's where we'd go to. Mom and Dad would go to fill up a pot to get water to heat on the old coal stove, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That's where later the washer and dryers went on the back porch where the water connection was.
It was
right.
closed in.
That's correct.
Some years later, and
So when they not only they were putting in sewer lines to feed all the houses, they were plumbing all the houses too for water and sewer.
That was a major task.
Big deal.
That you're talking about. That would be major in today's time, much less 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. Again, that's just it's just cool to think about.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, the mill didn't go through a bunch of feasibility studies, soil studies.
No permits.
Dig right here.
Dig here.
Hey, they knew there wasn't nothing in the ground. They wasn't over the lines.
now I remember as a small boy, of course. During those early years, the houses were not underpinned. You know, they were just open under there.
Oh.
And of course, at that time, nobody hardly ever had air conditioning. So the neighborhood kids where I lived, we'd all, in the summertime, we'd go up under the houses to get in the shade and play.
20 degrees cooler.
Dig holes and play with cars and trucks and this kind of thing.
Because, thinking about it, and I've seen some photos, I think I'm right. But, the Mill Village today, through downtown, we got a lot of really big, beautiful oak trees. But I imagine when you were younger, those were some pretty small trees. You probably didn't have the shade you have today.
Yeah.
Man.
And what held those houses up was just concrete pillars up and around the square of the house
Brick pillars.
Brick pillars.
Brick pillars
right
under the house. They might be, according to how big the house was, they might be anywhere from 4 brick pillars for 5 up to 6 or 8
and
brick pillars on the house.
Just crawl through from one side to the other, front to back.
Just dig holes under there and just
keep going.
I've got a picture of it's downtown when there were 2-story houses down through town, West Avenue. My grandmother, my mom's mom, she was part of the Roberts family. Their house was where the Swanee Theater is today. That's where they grew up. She was born in 1922, and those houses all through there, they were 2-story. A lot of them were 2-story houses, very tall and slender, and kind of almost sort of like an L shape, but just kind of tall. And none of those houses had underpinning, and the roads were just nothing but mud and dirt, and it was bad. But
I can remember behind the Presbyterian Church, they had the Trott's house and all those mill houses lined up on the lower end of West Avenue, back near the school back there. What was the hall was that Marietta Hall there?
That was Cabarrus Hall.
That was Cabarrus Hall. Marietta Hall was the other one uptown there.
Marietta was up next to the YMCA.
Right, correct. That was Cabarrus Hall down there.
Hall.
Wow. Great.
Cabarrus Mill.
Yeah,
that's right. It led up to the parking lot there at Plant 4.
Yep.
That's it.
Kind of winding towards the end of your career, obviously, mill shut down in 2003. You left a couple years before then, but what were those last couple years like for you? Like, what position were you in, and could you see the writing on the wall coming that there was the potential for the mill to shut down?
Yes, I think most of us in the office there where I worked, we could sort of see the writing on the wall, that it was coming, and of course everybody was sad about it and this kind of thing, but it was what it was, and we made the best of it, and.
Well, if you sometime you have time, you should watch the episode we did with Keith Garver, and we talked about the last box of product being packaged and coming off the conveyor belt and loading onto a truck. He says he thinks it went to Big Lots or someplace like that, Ollie's or Big Lots. I mean, that is a big day in the history of our town for that last piece of material to ever be produced from that plant after the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that had worked there and the probably billions of towels and sheets that came out of that place. I mean, that's a tough change for a town that was centered around that mill. So for those of people that worked there like you for all those years, and then you were able to get out before it went under, but still it has to be tough to have seen it go the way it went.
It was sad to see. It was
Had data processing minimized toward your retirement? Had it gone down from the 250 to 300 at one time? Had you seen the numbers come down in the workers?
It was somewhat reduced, but there was still a large number of people in there.
How about that?
And
So what year did you leave?
Let's see. I left in. I'll have to go back. I can't. My math's not that good.
I thought you'd earlier said you were around 65 years old.
I was just
turning,
about a year short of being 65 years old.
and you retired.
Yeah,
And had 42 years.
something like that.
So that would have been like 01.
2001.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Another big
okay,
year
let me
for the
think a
country.
minute. It was actually, I retired in the last day of March in 2000.
2000.
How about
Okay.
that?
Well, there you go.
about
Jugged his memory there.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
And,
we pulled it out of there.
Thinking forward after you retired, that this town went through some really, really dark times. I mean, it was a ghost time for a long time, and there was a time where I think a lot of us never knew if this town would even make it again.
Yeah, sure.
Did you ever consider picking your family up and moving?
Well, I thought about it, but not too much. I mean, I just didn't have the desire to do that.
Just home.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Where else would you go when you're from here? Best place, as we like to call it, God's country.
That's true.
But what? Just kind of in retrospective, what did the mill mean to you? I mean, obviously it was your job. It helped feed your family, house your family. But just to summarize, your feelings and thoughts towards not only the mill but the town of Kannapolis, what would it be?
Well, the town of Kannapolis, to me, it's just been wonderful. I mean, I don't know that I would care to live anywhere else, especially in a large city and this type of thing. I like the small town atmosphere. And so I really enjoyed growing up and living the years that I have in Kannapolis.
Well, and every time I've seen you for the past, I've worked at the campus 18 years in May, and I remember seeing you not long after I started there, walking up there every day, and I always try to wave at you if I see you out, and that kind of thing happens in a place like this, and I don't see that happening in big cities or
No.
any place much bigger than we are, and there's still people here that we're even though we're not daily contacts, but we're friends just by seeing you out in the public, and that's the culture this place has always had.
I started walking probably about a couple of years before I retired. I started when I would get home in the evening. Of course, I would leave. My work ended at 5 o'clock. Didn't always get out that early, but when I would get home and we would have our evening meal, about 2 years before I retired, I thought I need to get out and do a little something. So I started walking, and I started walking around a loop road, and I did that for a couple of years, and even after I retired, I would still walk the loop road until they started destruction of the mill. And to go around that loop road and those big trucks coming at you that are loaded with dirt and trash,
Debris.
you get a face full of dirt when one goes by.
Yeah.
I said, this is it. I'm gonna change my route. So I did.
How about that?
Wow.
And that was before walking was the thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was way back
Yeah.
then.
Oh yeah,
And still walking to this day.
that's great.
Well, this is a great episode, Ryan. Anything else we need to ask? I mean, we've
No.
covered a lot.
I was just the only thing I was going to ask is kind of what we asked Bobby Eagle. I think if you had any advice to give to a younger generation of people someone that's lived 89 years, what's your advice on life and just in general?
Well, my advice would be work hard, live right, enjoy life when you can, accept the bumps that come with it because they're going to be there, and just do the best you can.
Amen.
Great.
That's great.
Amen. Words.
Amen.
That all
Were
speaks
you?
to
Did you
resilience.
partake in the Y during the years when it was uptown there?
yeah, yeah.
And you were a regular member at the Y.
Yeah, went
And-
there. Biggest part of the time when I was a small boy, you know, going swimming and
Right.
taking part of the activities, and
That was the
even
coolest.
when I was in high school, to go up. Like one night a week, we'd go to the boys' department and dance and play ping pong and
How about that?
this kind of thing.
Everybody has memories
everybody-
of the Y,
I
don't
learned
they?
to
Oh
swim.
yeah,
Yes.
I learned to swim in that building.
That's it.
The Y,
That was
the Y was a main part of.
Oh.
I think any child growing up in Kannapolis.
Agreed.
amen.
Agreed.
Amen. 100%.
Even though it's been gone for 40 years or 30, 35 years, I mean, I still remember it as if it was yesterday.
I do too.
Wow.
So,
Yep.
crazy.
Almost 40.
Almost,
Yeah.
yeah. 87.
Yeah, 87.
87. Wow.
Mm.
Well, Mr. Williams, I appreciate you being here. This
Yeah.
has been phenomenal to hear your story and to get your firsthand accounts of working in the mill and just living here in Kannapolis.
Well, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed being with you. Enjoyed
Well,
This has been
sharing my thoughts and feelings with you.
Oh, we
The
really
pleasure has
appreciate
been
it.
all ours, and we're very honored to have heard your story, and we appreciate your service and your dedication
Yes.
and,
Okay, well,
to this city.
And
Thank
to
you
the
very
country.
much.
And to the country.
Yes, sir.
And you can tell Bobby Eagle now you're an alum of this show too.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Guy Bud Williams, we can call you either. Thank you for being here, episode 4 of our Mill People series.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir. You're
Merry
great.
Christmas to you and your family, and we appreciate you and all your contributions to Kannapolis.
Thank you, sir, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, gentlemen, and your family.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, Merry Christmas, guys, and we'll catch you next time. I guess that's 3 for Dale.
Three for
that's
Dale.
Number 4 for the Mill Guy series. But thanks for joining us, guys. Follow us, like us, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, all the platforms that we've got out there, and keep following.
Share it with your friends.
There you go.
That's it.
That's it.